Joining us now live in studio, Betty Who.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Are you tired? You're doing
I
a million
know.
shows right now.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm a little like caffeinated, but I'm great.
That's the key.
Yes.
Morning interviews.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, you've been off to such a hot start to 2018. You dropped the 2 new songs, right? Ignore Me, Look Back, and you're on tour. Is everything going as planned so far?
Yeah, I mean, more or less. Yeah, you never can know what to expect. You know, it's a very new chapter in my life. I'm tentatively excited, and I feel really like kind of rejuvenated, and I'm like passionate in this way that I haven't been in a long time. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Tour has also been amazing. The shows continue to get better and better, and especially this last leg has been particularly spectacular, and the fans have been so incredible, and we've been selling out almost every show.
Wow.
So it's like really cool. I know, it feels very like exciting. I got papped outside. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like such a star. Wow.
What a start to the week. Well, you just had an awful nice homecoming. You went to school up at Berkeley in Boston. You did 2 sold-out shows back-to-back in Boston. Congratulations.
Thank you. That was pretty cool. And I had a couple friends from school who still live in Boston who got to come through and hit up some of my teachers. And it's always nice to be back in Boston. It feels like home in this sort of really strange, like nostalgic way. It's very kind of a very intense place for me because so much of where I am now is kind of due to my experience there. I met my producer there, my manager there, my band there. So I'm very, very tied to it.
Well, it must be such a cool experience, right? Because so many of the things that you're doing right now, you probably visualize doing while in school up there.
Yeah.
So now that you're doing it at these venues that maybe you even attended as an undergrad,
absolutely,
it's wild.
Yeah, I went to a couple shows, both at Brighton Music Hall and at the Paradise. You know, and we've played sort of every venue from the Middle East, and you know, I was playing venues like there when I was in Boston. There were like Berkeley showcases, and I was playing some of these venues. So it's kind of this weird like full circle, and it feels really nice also to come back and be like, no, I'm doing it. And you know, a girl in meet and greet yesterday in Jersey, she was going to Berkeley, and she was like, you know, which teacher should I take? And I was like, oh my gosh, like you're the next generation of kids who are doing exactly. She's like, I'm a songwriting major. I was like, I was too. So we had sort of this really lovely long conversation, and it felt very, you know, it makes me feel old in this weird way, but it was really nice, and it's so lovely to see really young, passionate people like coming to my shows and being like, I want to do what you do. And I was like, cool. Like that's how I felt when I was going to shows when I was 19. So it's awesome.
You're paying it forward. It's really
nice. It's nice.
I wanted to talk to you about, you know, you're such a great, you're a great pop artist now, but you're also just such a great lover of pop music. And I wanted to get back to kind of the roots of your musical inspiration. I think for all of us here, you know, we really lay the foundation for our musical palette during our teenage years, right? Like whatever we're into there, maybe not always the same bands, but whatever genres, whatever tastes we develop in our teen years, I find it stays with us throughout our entire lives.
Yes, definitely.
And what I found so fascinating, though, about you is that right smack dab in the middle of those formative musical years, you move across the world. You move from Australia to the U.S. So I was curious, what was going on at that point in time musically back home in Australia? And then when you got to the United States, what was going on here?
It's so funny. You know, I grew up in such a sort of interesting time in music where when I was, you know, discovering so much music, you know, the internet had sort of just been born, and lots of people were downloading music for free, you know, which I didn't kind of understand the consequences of as a, you know, 11-year-old with a LimeWire account. You know, and now I'm like, I feel so like I cheated myself and cheated so many artists for a couple of years there as a teenager. But, you know, there's a lot that I didn't really expect. Like, I feel quite American in a lot of ways. My mom's American, my dad's Australian. I grew up in between the two. And when I moved to America, I was 15, about to turn 16. And my musical landscape was pretty similar, like in Australia versus America. But it's funny, you know, when I got to America, there are things that I didn't realize that I missed. Like, I had never heard a Sum 41 song, which like sounds so weird, but like we had Blink-182, like that was big. I remember my brother loved Blink-182, but I never listened to Sum 41. I just missed Australia, or at least missed me. You know, so there's sort of this weird like between, you know, 1995 and, you know, 2005 maybe. There's about 10 years in there of like American culture that I have like zero recollection of, and I'm like, people are talking, they're like, what's the show, Reading Rainbow?
Yeah.
I'd never heard. They were like, "You're reading really the song from Reading Rainbow." I'm like, I couldn't tell you. Also, the Goofy movie, the theme song. When we listen to each other's I know that song now.
Yeah, you've learned it now.
Because my bass player was like, "You've never heard this?" She like yelled at me. I was like, I don't know. I've never even heard of I didn't know Goofy had a movie. So it was funny, like kind of playing catch up a little bit. You know, in high school too. It's such an interesting time to be you know, Western foreigner, so it's not as if like it's a complete culture shock, but definitely I had a couple moments of like the first time I was, oh God, I was in summer camp at my performing arts school that I ended up going to high school at, and they would do like an excursion into town with yellow school buses. And I thought that they were like a thing in the movies, sort of. I didn't realize that that was like a real thing that America had. We're real yellow school. I thought it was like a movie. I don't know. You know, I thought it was
special effects.
Totally. I had no idea. And so I saw them and I was like, oh my God, it's a yellow school bus. It's so exciting. And everyone was like, you're stupid. Yeah, there were a couple moments of me feeling a little embarrassed. But otherwise, I think I played catch up pretty quickly.
Picture Betty on the first day of high school being like, school buses and Goofy? Oh my God.
Okay, school buses and the Goofy movie? Oh, what have I been missing my whole life? Yeah.
So what was like an artist? I mean, you mentioned Sum 41 there, but just in the world of pop, right? Like going from Australian pop, which isn't so much different than US pop.
Kylie.
But I was going to say, right?
Kylie. You guys don't know about Kylie. If you do, you don't know all of it, all right? Kylie is the girl. She's the queen of pop. Yeah, I grew up on Kylie Minogue, and she was sort of like, she's like inceptioned into your brain as an Australian child. I didn't really realize how much Kylie Minogue music I knew until I opened for her on tour.
Oh my God.
I know, it's just like the coolest, most full circle thing. And I was listening, I watched her show for the first night we were on the tour, and I was listening to her sing, and I was like, I know every single one of these songs. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm the biggest Kylie Minogue fag in the world. I didn't even realize that I like loved her the way that I do. And then I was sort of listening through her catalog, and I was like, oh, I've been loving Kylie. But somebody who was like very, very transformative to me, you know, as a pop musician, as somebody who inspired me a lot, Britney Spears is like my ultimate inspiration, sort of. You know, I grew up watching, I had this one DVD of her live in Las Vegas 2001 HBO special. The Dream Within a Dream tour, in case you were wondering.
Wasn't like John Voight in that?
Yes.
He plays like a dad.
Yeah, he plays and it's real like with young Britney. There's like a girl who's supposed to be, and he's like, "Follow your dreams, my child," and it's like, what is happening? But it's really trippy. Actually, it's a very fun watch now, sort of being a grown up and being like, this is kind of weird. I like it. But I would come home. I went to boarding school before I moved to America. I would come home on the weekends, and I would sort of like lock myself in my room and watch this DVD over and over again. It was like my favorite thing in the world. And now when I think about the music that I make and the show I want to put on, it is so obvious to me how much she really inspired me. My first tape I ever owned, I think Hit Me Baby One More Time came out, I was like 5 years old. It was the first tape I ever had. Sometimes was the B-side on it, which by the way, I just found out she hates performing. She's never performed that song.
Sometimes?
Since like her Onyx tour, she hates performing it. And I was like, Britney, what do you mean?
What is that about, Brittany?
I know, I love that song.
Well, she's going on the road. You're going to get tickets this summer? She's finally leaving Vegas this year. She's going to do Radio City here.
Well, I saw her in Vegas first.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I would murder somebody to go. Actually, I would murder somebody to meet Britney. That's my ultimate.
Just to meet her.
I know. I don't. It's like I've seen the show. It's fine. I'm cool. I want to like. I really want to meet Britney.
So you've never met her, I understand.
Never met her.
So if you met her, the first time in front of her, what would you say to her?
Probably tell her that she's like one of the reasons I make music. You know, and I think Britney doesn't get the sort of. She's one of the most iconic like vessels of all time. You know, like some people I think who are vessels take credit for writing songs that they didn't write, maybe. And Britney's always been like, you know, people have written her songs for her in the past, and she has taken them and like made them her own. And she has been this incredible sort of like face for pop music. And she worked harder than literally anybody. You know, when you watch old making the videos of Britney, you know, her schedule, her dedication to looking good and at such a young age, you know, I'm like so inspired by her, and I'm like, if Britney at 16 can work like a 22-hour day, like I'm a grown adult, I can do this, I can make it happen. So that I think people don't really talk about kind of how much she really gave of herself to her art, to her, you know, career.
Oh, incredibly hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a testament to her longevity, you know, still touring, you know, 20 years in.
And what a show. Have you seen the Vegas show?
I have not seen the Vegas
Oh,
show.
you're doing it wrong.
I have seen the HBO show from back in the day. I used to watch that too. I had a crush on Britney back then.
Oh, yes. Didn't we all? Yeah.
You talk about, looking up to Britney, and you're someone who probably envisioned doing a lot of the things you do now, dreaming of living a life that you have now as a kid, just wanting to be a pop star, wanting to be a pop musician. I'm curious, though, because there's always, like, an upside to the dream and a downside of the dream. How does your reality today compare to the dreams that you had?
I think it has absolutely nothing to do, really, with the dreams that I had. I think the outside perspective of what working in the music industry looks like is completely different to what it is actually in reality, which is sort of like a harsh awakening when you really get into it. But I'm so kind of driven to get where I've always wanted to be, and I've said this before, and I probably will continue to say it. Maybe, I don't really understand why people do something in their lives if they don't want to be the best at it. At least that's how I've always felt, and I'm an intense person, obviously. But I got into this business, and I wanted to be a songwriter and a singer, and I wanted to be good at it, and that comes with working your ass off and dedicating your entire life to it. And I've lost relationships and friendships over this thing that I do with my life, because it's the most important thing to me, really. That's changed a little bit in the last couple of years. My family has really come through for me and become such a kind of grounding force for me, and they're absolutely like the only reason I can manage still doing this. But there's a lot of time and effort. I've been doing this now for like 6, 7, almost 8 years. God, I'm in pop years. I always say pop years are like dog years. I'm 26. In pop years, I'm like 50. Yeah. So it's a never-ending sort of. I think even the people who are the most successful that you would think are the biggest pop stars in the world probably feel like they still haven't hit where they've always wanted to be. I think it never ends. Right. The good parts have been incredible. Like the highlights of my career are like things I never thought I would get to do. I got to sing for President Obama when he was still in office, which was like, my parents got to come. My parents got to meet him, and my dad was like in tears. Oh my gosh, my dad kills me. He was like in tears, which is not a totally uncommon occurrence, because also my dad cries when we watch Chop Jr. and the kids get kicked off, and he's like, but they worked so hard. And I'm like, all right, no more for you. But he was like kind of weepy, being like the fact that my daughter, I never thought in a million years that my like offspring would be the person who would introduce me to the president of the United States. Like that's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. So being able to give my like family and loved ones cool opportunities like that is actually kind of like the highlight of what I get to do.
It's incredible. I mean, as a musician, right, and as someone as successful as you have been, you're so busy. Everything's such a whirlwind that sometimes it's hard to just take a step back and be like, wow, I've opened for Kylie Minogue. I've performed for President Barack Obama. Like it's wild, and you're just 26 years old.
Yes, I know. Well, the pop years really do factor in when you think about the fact that like people who are like 10 times more successful than me are literally 15, and I'm like, wow. Okay, lots of work to do still. So, and I think also I'm trying to still find the balance. I think most people do in their lives. I'm very much trying to find the balance of understanding how much work I've put in and how much I have accomplished in a really short period of time, and like sort of patting myself on the back for that, and understanding that like I've ticked off a lot of things off my bucket list already, and I'm 26, because so much of me is still like, blinders on, like, who cares? Go get what you always came, what you came here for. So I'm kind of on a constant like evolution and journey of trying to better myself as an artist and become the best I can be. I'm like obsessed with it. I watch back, we record the show that I perform every night, and I like watch it back and take notes, and I'm like sort of an insane person. But I would just want the show to be the best it can be. So, right. Yeah.
You, as an artist, have always been somebody that has like had razor sharp focus in my eyes, right? Of like, you knew who Betty Who was, you knew what you wanted the music to sound like, what the show should look like, and I was always struck by that because I'll talk to artists that are on their 3rd or 4th studio album, and they'll say, okay, this is the record where I finally found myself, and I feel like you just kind of had it since day one. Wow. As an artist. But I'm curious, have you always sort of had that grasp personally?
As a human? No, absolutely not.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because
totally. No, I sure, yes. In a lot of ways, yes. I have, looking back on the last 10 years of my life, I sort of feel at the same time that both absolutely nothing and absolutely everything is completely different about my life. But I think I've always been really self-assured, and I've always been really confident in who I am. for better or for worse, you know, whether that was the right or wrong thing to be doing. I've pretty much been, I feel very lucky actually in my kind of formative childhood years to not have been weighed down by like insecurity. And, you know, and I look back at pictures of myself and I was like the goofiest, like weirdest looking teenager. And I was like, I thought I was so cool. I thought I was hip. I thought I was like killing it. And it was like really actually quite embarrassing for me. So I think I am very grateful for sort of my lack of self-awareness a little bit. But I definitely think that commitment, whether it's like, you know, for better or worse, definitely shows, you know, in my music. And I think that may be what you're sort of sensing from that is it's like I go all the way. And also I've never put out music that I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
And not 100% confident. And I fought a lot over the years for the music that I've put out because it tells my story in, I think, the most appropriate and best way.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who has to sing it every night. You know, nobody else has to. So that was really important to me.
Totally. And I was just going to say, you know, pop, that's a hard genre to stay true to yourself in. And I can imagine those fights and how tiring it can be to consistently put out music that you're proud of because, you know, not to say other genres don't do this, but pop is, you know, you got to please a lot of people, you know. It's a very broad genre. So it's testament to you for staying true to yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. And I also think, you know, it's always about, for me, like, I think it was George Clooney who says he makes movies. He makes one for him, one for them.
Yeah.
So he'll do like one, you know, Ocean's 11 and then one The Descendants. And it's like kind of he gets to pick and back and forth between genres. And I think I do a little bit of that. You know, I think for every like heartfelt, you know, really intense personal song, I'll put out like a song that makes me just like want to dance and be, you know, pre-gaming for something with my friends on a Friday night, you know. And I think being self-aware enough to know that like you need a little bit of everything and to make those choices appropriately is something I'm still working on and I'm trying to get really good at.
Yeah, it's tough to do. I want to talk about the music really quick before we run out of time. We've got the beautiful album, or single art, I should say, for Look Back.
Thank you.
And also Ignore Me is a great song.
Thank
you. Put up both of these from the top of the year.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Ignore Me just for a quick second because I love the lyrics of it. It's a great idea for a song. I love when I hear a pop song and I'm like, wow, I don't know if that's been done before.
Thank you.
And that's kind of how I felt when I dug into the lyrics and I listened to the song Ignore Me. So
if
anyone's watching right now and they haven't heard the song, can you kind of explain it?
Sure. You know, I was in a session with a writer who I love. His name's Brett McLaughlin. And he's, you know, he wrote like Fetish with Selena and he's done some really, really cool. He did My. He does a lot of the Troy stuff. So I'm like such a big fan of his already. And his artist project's called Leland. You have to check him out if you haven't heard it. He has a song called Mattress that's, so shout out to Brett. But he and my very, you know, old time collaborator, Peter, and I were all in the studio. We were talking about my experience in my life generally and in relationships, but particularly with kind of, I had just parted from my record label, which was a really big moment for me. And I was talking about how, and this happens in every, you know, working or personal relationship where when it comes to an end and there's this sort of like, you want to part on a good note, but then if you know, you have an ex-boyfriend calling you in the middle of the night to just like check in, you're like, no, like you don't get to do this anymore. Like, I'm not your girlfriend, don't call me. And I think everybody's had that experience, and especially like in LA, there are a lot of people who want to get to kind of keep you close just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah, because what if you're a big star and then they broke up with you and they're like, well, wait, I shouldn't have done that, you know? And that's a really horrible feeling when you're on the other side of it, being like, you're not my friend for the right reasons. And Ignore Me is sort of like a very personal to me experience, but I think most people have had that feeling of like, no, you broke up with me, like stop texting me. And Ignore Me is sort of my homage to those ex-boyfriends out there.
So shout out to them too.
Yeah, exactly.
Along with Brett.
Yeah.
So you're in the middle of this tour. You're selling out almost every single city. You got a couple more dates, and tickets are available for a few of those right now if you want to go check those out across Betty's socials. I was curious though to ask you, you know, this being your first full year as an independent artist, what would need to happen, or what does need to happen in your mind for 2018 to be a success?
Honestly, it already has been in so many ways. So I'm really like, I feel, you know, I am very, very happy to succeed and fail by my own hand. That's what I keep saying about being an independent artist. It's like, if I put out a song and it bombs, at least I know that it's because I chose it and I made the decision and I can take responsibility for that, and not because somebody else didn't do their job.
Right.
And that's really, really refreshing for me. And also means that I'm kind of getting, you know, feedback more appropriately, you know, based off of actual, like, what are the fans like? And so the fact that, you know, I became an independent artist and put out Ignore Me, and it was like arguably my biggest single release to date, is sort of, you know, that sort of already made 2018 a success to me. And I've got some cool stuff coming up. I get to be in the studio again. I get to make more music. I'm finishing up more music. You'll be hearing an EP soon. It's like I feel really excited, and I feel really in control for the first time in my life, which is sort of a strange experience, as you know, I think most artists never feel in control of literally anything ever. So it's a nice, rare feeling for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's volume 2, as you've called it.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
A new day.
It does feel like a new chapter, yes.
Yeah. All right, well, on that note, we're going to go to the audience for some studio audience questions.
Hello.
Hi.
And our
Hi,
first
how are
one's
you?
right here.
Great, how are you?
Good. Congratulations on your singles, first
Thank
off.
you.
Yeah. So I have 2 questions for
Yes.
you. One is, who would you like to collaborate with that you haven't done so already? And on top of that, have you thought about getting out of your comfort zone a little bit and maybe straying outside of pop, maybe doing something with dance or a different genre that you normally haven't worked with?
Yeah, great. 2 great questions. First question, someone I would love to collaborate with is James Blake. Speaking of different genres, he's somebody who I am so, you know, moved by all the time, and I think he has such like volatile cinematic music, and I think that's something that I admire so much, and I would love nothing more than to make a beautiful song with him. But outside of pop music, I think the genre I'm the most interested in exploring is sort of singer-songwriter, folk music, which is sort of where I got my start as a songwriter. You know, I was like a girl with my guitar in my bedroom writing, you know, kind of pretty, totally not pop songs. And, you know, I've always thought about doing a side project or releasing sort of an EP or a record or something under maybe a different name of all those songs, because I feel like I don't have a place for those yet. And I'm not entirely sure. You know, I have, you know, 2 albums worth probably of songs that are, I think, fantastic and are beautiful, but are just sort of not really right for Betty Who in a lot of ways. Because I really want this part of me, this project, to be about, you know, making a party, you know, having people come and dance at the show, and it being like a really high energy experience. And so many of these songs are a little more introspective. Yeah, so I'm definitely emotionally and like artistically exploring those places. I haven't figured out entirely how it's going to manifest yet, but it will definitely. Yeah.
Did you ever listen to Amy Shark?
I don't know who Amy Shark is. No.
She's an Australian singer-songwriter. She just played the Bowery Ballroom here in the
Oh,
city.
fabulous.
That'd be like, you're just talking about folk music, and
Yeah.
she's kind of like pop folk, but that'd be a cool collaboration.
Yeah. Okay.
Check her
Now
out.
I'm writing it down. Okay. Yeah. Hi. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Yes.
So you've released a couple of cover songs, including Kylie Minogue and
Yes.
Dinah Lewis. How do you like doing covers as opposed to originals? And are there any other artists that you want to cover, like maybe Britney?
Yeah, oh my gosh, right? Isn't that the dream? Yes, that would be my dream, is to cover Britney. Although I sort of feel like I couldn't do her justice. I love her so much. It would sort of be like a really high stakes thing for me. Covers are good and bad for me. Good because it gives me it's nice to have a song already written and in its sort of original form, that you get to make a different take of it, and sort of put yourself into somebody else's art. That's sort of a nice exercise almost. It's a little, I'm such a songwriter at heart. And so to not feel like I have my voice, you know, my storytelling in the song sometimes, I wouldn't say it's stifling, but I would say it's definitely a challenge, which is probably good for me. I need challenges all the time. But I also think that, you know, the I Love You Always Forever Donna Lewis cover was like arguably one of my most successful, you know, releases of my career to date, which is hysterical because it's like the one song I didn't write, and of course that's the song that blows up, and I'm like, damn it, I keep doing this wrong. So it definitely like it opened my eyes a lot to sort of be a little bit less precious with my own songwriting, and find ways to insert myself into other people's stories as well, and you know, be a vessel for those stories, because I think I was closing myself off a lot to a lot of other music, and other people's kind of going, I wrote this song and I want you to sing it. And I was like, I didn't write it, I don't want to sing it. You know, I don't feel that way anymore. You know, if the song is right and it feels really good to me, why wouldn't I? You know, so I think actually doing a cover really opened me up to that, which I'm really grateful for. And also Kylie Minogue is like I told you, is my queen. So doing that Come Into My World cover was really fun, and we did it in a really different way than how she does it, obviously. So it was really kind of challenging at first to figure out how we wanted to do it, but I'm really happy with how it came out. Yeah.
Now, I gotta ask.
Yes.
If you had to cover one Britney song, one Britney song only,
Oh my
what would it be?
gosh, I don't know. Well, her third record is my favorite, so I'd probably pull from that. I want to say Overprotected. It's one of my favorite songs. Although there is what's this? Born to Make You Happy is also.
That's my favorite song. That's where John Voight is in the
Yes,
HBO
right
DVD.
before. Yes,
Yes.
it is. Wow.
I remember.
I know, really. You're my spirit animal right now. That song is like still to this day like it's on my like pre-show playlist. We listen to it
Born
like
to Make You
every
Happy.
day. Yes.
Yo, pound it.
Yeah.
Right there. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you for understanding.
Yes.
Yes.
Should have been bigger.
I
All right.
agree.
We got time for one more studio audience question. It's gonna come from over here.
Yes. Hi.
Does your song Ignore Me have to do with your own personal life, or do you just like make it up referring to like other people's relationship?
No, it's totally to do with my own personal life. You know, it's a lot to do with my relationship with my old label. It has a lot to do with it. But you know, I think when I'm writing a song, I try and I'm always telling my stories. It's always something that is like very real to me. But then on some level, I try and make it a little broader so that everybody can hear it and go, that relates to me too. You know, sometimes I think when songs are too specific, it alienates people a little bit, which is, you know, I love Amy Winehouse, and it's like the most specific songwriting of all time, and I still feel like I relate to it, so I think there's a way to do it really well. But I wanted to make a song that I think everybody could relate to, where it is, you know, you're not allowed to call me anymore, like you broke up with me, actually go away. And in the end, actually it was funny, the way the song actually in its kind of purest form came about was I was talking to Brett about my experience, and I was saying, you know, it ended up being the best thing that they wouldn't return my calls. You know, I'm so happy that they just started ignoring me. And then Brett goes, the best thing you can do is just ignore me. That's our song. And I was like, cool. And then it was written in like 25 minutes, which is so crazy, you know. But it came from such a real place, I think, is why it got written so fast. And it was the first song I wanted to put out as a beginning of the second chapter, sort of explaining where I've been and why I got here and how I got here, sort of kicking off this next part of my life, which I'm so sort of excited about. Thank you. Do you have a personal experience with, yes,
I do.
you relate?
Yes.
Okay, girl, don't we all, you know? Yes, I'm glad. Yeah.
We're gonna have a therapy session here.
I know. Sorry, you guys can go. Thank you so much. Yeah. We're going to hang out. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we are unfortunately out of time, Betty. But thank you so much.
Thank
for taking
you so much
time
for
out of
having
a
me.
Very busy start to 2018
Yes.
for you. The songs are available everywhere, and also the tour. If you want to pick up some tickets, most of them are sold out. But check your local listings. And,
Thanks for coming, you guys.
And Betty's socials.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.